In this video, I want to go over how to deploy both a server-side rendered and a static site-generated Next.js app to AWS Amplify. So if you're new to Next.js, I have another tutorial on that. But to recap, server-side rendering is when there is a server that pre-renders pages. It's almost like a template that you plug variables into, and the server handles all of that rendering, so your end user can have something that's similar to HTML. That happens at request time. So when the user requests the page, they get the server-side rendered page. There's also static site generation, and static site generations happens at build time. So every time you build your app, a bunch of pages are created. Essentially, you have these templates again, and all these variables are plugged into these template pages. So those are two of the types of apps that you can create with Next.js. I'm going to show you how to do both of them. So right now I have a static site generated Next.js app. And what it essentially does is I have a list of colors in this colors.json, and there's this color.js file, and what it does is it statically creates a page for each one of these colors that renders. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I have this pushed to a GitHub repository. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go to my browser, and I'm going to go to the AWS console. I'm going to open up AWS Amplify, and I'm going to click New App and do Host Front End. I'll choose GitHub. And the one thing that I want to make sure is that when I go to my package JSON, the build step, instead of just saying next dev, says next build and next export. This will make it so that Next creates a statically generated site instead of a server-side rendered one. So the site will be generated at build time. This is great if you want to cache your site or have it be really SEO friendly. So again, next build and next export. Make sure to push that to GitHub. So now I'll choose my repository. So I need to choose my color pages app right here. I'm going to do my main branch first. I'll say next, and you can see that this is automatically created for me, and I'll click next again and save and deploy. So now this will go ahead and build, and I'll have a deployed site. Every time that I push to GitHub, it will redeploy for me. So if I have any bugs or anything like that, it'll handle that redeployment on that end. You can also set up pull request previews. So if you want every time somebody to create a pull request and that pull request to have a static site that's deployed that you can preview and test out, you can do that as well. You can add a custom domain, change your build settings, all those types of things that you might expect with a static site hosting service. So now comes server-side rendering. So I have a second Git branch that has a server-side rendered version of this app. So now if I go back to my code, you can see that my get static props is commented out, and this is changed to get server-side props. And so now this is going to render on the server instead of at build time. So every time somebody requests a page, it's going to plug in the color. And so I can get a red page, a blue page, even though not all these colors are listed. So this will allow me to use any of the named CSS colors and get a page for it. You could also set up like a 404 or something along those lines, but we'll keep it simple. We'll go back to the AWS console and deploy this now. You can notice that my package JSON just stays the default. So next build and nothing else. You don't need to update anything in order to get this to deploy. So I am going to connect a branch, and I'll go with my SSR branch, and I'll do save and deploy. So now that one is going to build, but now I can show you the first app, which is this SSG app, and that's deployed. So I can click on any of these colors, and they were listed in the data.json originally, and a page exists for them in their color. So now we'll wait for this SSR to deploy. So The fun thing is that this is a serverless server that's doing the server-side rendering. Behind the scenes, a Lambda at Edge function is being deployed here. The other thing to note with the server-side rendering is that next 9 features are supported as of the time of this recording. So if you want to use next 10 or next 11, we're working on that, but it's not out quite yet. So make sure to just use those next 9 features. So that SSR version of the app will deploy, and it'll look pretty much the same as the SSG one for this application, but that's how you deploy a Next.js app to AWS Amplify.